All right, good afternoon. This is David O. Thank you for joining me once again. Listen, yesterday was MLK Day, Martin Luther King Day. I hope that you enjoyed the day while also reflecting on, the value of service and, all of our rights and, that are blessed to us by our Constitution and everything that Martin Luther King stood for and continues to stand for. I myself had a great day yesterday, thanks to the barristers in Philadelphia for the wonderful breakfast program, and going to the churches and all the events. Really a wonderful day in Philadelphia. So much emphasis on service and an example set by Martin Luther King. Listen, we have got a great show for you today. We are going to be talking about the Uptown Theater in North Philadelphia. Many of you will remember the Uptown Theater. Some of you won't. But we are here with Linda Richardson, who is the president of the Uptown Theater, and they are in the middle of a fundraising effort to help revitalize and bring back this very historic building and location. We're going to talk with her, and then we're going to meet Problem Child. Because they're so bad. No, because they are so good. They're a hip-hop group right here from Philadelphia, a trio, two young men and a young lady. And they are the winners of the 2018 PHL Live People's Choice category. They do hip-hop and maybe some other things, but we're going to learn about them on our show and listen to a little bit of their music. Right now, I of course want to thank the show's sponsor, Weinerman Pain and Wellness, because without them, well, I wouldn't have a show and I wouldn't be able to bring you all our fantastic guests here in Philadelphia. Weinerman Pain and Wellness is located at the Land Title Building, 100 South Broad Street, Suite 1800. If you have a need for rehabilitation, if you need to get back into good health or pain management, check them out. They do a wonderful job. They are open 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and you can reach them by calling. Are you ready with your pens or your cell phones? It's 215-988-9503. Weinerman Pain and Wellness. Let me just remind you that last week we were talking to Dr. Valerie Worthington. She has a PhD in educational psychology and a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She's a life coach, a martial artist, a book author, and just a woman who helps people get to where they want to be. And we also met Justin Gonzalez. He is the 2018 classical music winner of PHL Live Center Stage. We heard one of his clips, and he performed live. Fantastic voice, really positive attitude, and really good luck to him. And finally, we met classical guitarist and martial artist Brian Rago. And talk to him about passions, goals, and excellence. Someone who combines, a desire of teaching, a love of music, with his love of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and other martial arts. And I mention that because you can listen to that show and other shows by going to www.dbam.com. And around 4:30 today or sometime around there, you'll be able to listen to today's show on the podcast. Just go to www.dbam.com. Check out the menu button, and for programs, look for In the Know with David O. Well, listen, I'm going to introduce you to my first guest. Her name is Linda Richardson. She has been involved in the community and community organizations here in Philadelphia for many years, and she now serves as the president and CEO of Uptown Entertainment and Development Corporation. They have a capital campaign in which they're trying to raise $10 million, and they provide oversight to construction projects for the Uptown. Very challenging, but very worthwhile, because that is really a very historic location, and we're going to hear about that and about their current campaign to raise $30,000. Linda, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
All right, good afternoon. So tell our listeners a little bit about the Uptown Theater.
The Uptown Theater is called the Grand Jewel of Entertainment for Black America by the late, great WDAS DJ Georgie Woods. It was built in 1927 and opened in 1929 as an Art Deco metallic terracotta tile theater, and now is the only remaining movie theater built in that style in Philadelphia.
Now, for our listeners who don't know what Art Deco and all that stuff is, how would you describe? See, I describe it this way: it was kind of the glorious period of the industrial age. Had a lot to do with like a desire to go to the Buck Rogers, going into the future, and it was very opulent. It was a time of wealth and captains of industry, and so they were building these buildings that were super luxurious looking and tried to make them kind of futuristic. That's kind of how I do it, but I'm no expert. How would you describe it?
Well, I think you're right. In addition, the style took its name from the French Beaux Arts movement at the turn of the 19th century. And the buildings were not only, as you described it, opulent, but they also took on some of the art from African and Indian and influences, so that it was very, very different. It was both futuristic, but it also had a calming and cultural component to its design.
Now, we're going to talk about the Uptown Theater, and a lot of people really, when they hear, Uptown Theater, they have like a good vibe for it, like the Uptown Theater and what it's meant to the community. But it's interesting to me, because I didn't know this until just before the show, when I was reading up a little bit about it, but like it opened in '29, just when the Great Depression hit.
That's
and so
right.
Here is this really ornate, gorgeous building with a movie theater, or a theater, but it was kind of designed for the talkies with the talking pictures, and then boom, the Depression comes.
That's right, and it was built actually at a time when movies were the high technology of the day.
Yes.
And so people went to the movies to escape their troubles.
Yes.
And so it flourished as a movie theater until the 1950s, and because of the fact that there were new people coming back from the war, people were moving into the suburbs, movie theaters were no longer one studio theaters but multiplexes. It did fall out of favor, but it flourished for many years. First, as a movie theater, it served as a vaudeville house until 1950. So it has a interesting history, both from its architecture and from what happened inside. But in 1950, it transferred into what many people now know as the heart of the rhythm and blues era.
Right. And at a point in time, a couple of Philadelphia names come up that I recognize. Georgie Woods was bringing shows on there, and so was Sid Booker managing, and others who were also not only in the entertainment business, especially in the African American community, African American entertainment, but also very closely tied to the civil rights movement that was going on at the time.
That's right. The civil rights movement, intersected with the rise of African American culture, and in fact, in 1959, Dr. Martin Luther King came to Philadelphia and did a show at the then Spectrum, if anybody remembers that.
Yes.
But they also did shows at the Uptown Theater for the neighborhood and the community.
And so a lot of the, like at that period of time, kind of like between the 50s, 60s or so, I mean, the Uptown Theater was pretty much on the same level as the Apollo Theater.
That's right. It was a rival to the Apollo. They say that if you made it out of the Uptown, you made it into national and international fame. The theater seating was twice as large as the Apollo. And in fact, the owner who bought it in the 1950s owned Washington's Howard Theater and Baltimore's Royal Theater, which also was part of what they called the Chitlin Circuit. That was the circuit of entertainers who performed up and down the East Coast for primarily African American audiences, but there are people who have fond memories of the Uptown, including the Phillies president, who went there as a student and went on dates with his girlfriend, now wife.
Right,
and so people had all kinds of stories about participating in the shows in the Uptown.
Yeah, and for me to kind of reference it back into a period of time that many of us are not familiar with, I mean, there were multiple shows per day, and acts would come in between 10 to 12 acts, starting at 2 o'clock, and you know, the midnight performance cost $2.50, earlier shows $1.50, and the kiddie matinee 50 cents.
That's right. In fact, people say there are three stories that people talk about the Uptown.
Right.
One is that they could come in to the matinee, hide in the seats, and see the shows up to the midnight shows, which were very risque at the time.
Wow.
They also talked about just being in lines all the way around the theater, and people talk about up and personal relationships with many of the legends of rhythm and blues. So you could go and see a show, then go around the back of the theater and see somebody like Smokey Robinson come out, or one of the Temptations. And it was a time when entertainment was very, very community oriented.
Right.
And so entertainers would open themselves up to the audiences. So we have all kinds of stories and oral histories of people who've seen the shows, who saw people who were involved, people like James Brown, Ray Charles, Sam Cooke, Aretha Franklin, you name it. It was a who's who of entertainment in the theater.
And to put another historical perspective on it, at one point in time, the Uptown Thursday nights were Temple University nights, where the white students would come in and watch performances, a little bit still in the kind of like a little bit more in the days of segregation, where maybe it wasn't segregated, but you know, audiences felt more comfortable in kind of like a white group coming in, you know. So it's really kind of interesting because the Uptown has been around that long.
That's right. The shows really were marketing to a broad range of tastes, particularly young people who were really becoming involved with rhythm and blues. And so you had people coming from everywhere. It was the only place that you could come from West Philly, North Philly, South Philly, and you know, the gangs would have a peace agreement, and so nobody ever had any trouble in the Uptown. And in fact, people like Hall and Oates got their start at the Uptown when they were students at Temple
University.
So it was a place that people could come and feel comfortable and hear music and dance and sometimes you know, enjoy meeting people up close and personal.
Yeah, it's so different because of television, cable, digital, internet. I mean, it was just so different that people really kind of went out and got entertainment. And I guess there were other issues as well, but a lot of that kind of surrounds the Uptown Theater. I was reading a part where Georgie Woods was able to book the Supremes for 10 days, a full run, for $400.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And the theaters and the performance venues what sold records. So it was very important for acts to be able to be performing in those venues so that they could sell the records.
Right.
And so at the time, it was money making,
Right.
but it certainly in today's time, was different. And so, the Motown Review, had many performances at the Uptown, as well as some of the local homegrown artists.
Right. It just kind of speaks of even like in the music industry, how the business worked back then. Because as you said, listen, $400 for the Supremes for a full 10-day run performing, that's not a lot of money. But as you said, they're getting up close and personal with the audience, and probably getting interviews, selling records, selling out concerts, doing all kinds of stuff. And it's just really very fascinating. In addition to the great musicians who came to the Uptown, some of the legendary comedians would come to the Uptown. Red Fox, and Flip Wilson.
Right, Moms Mabley. She was my goodness, she was an old performer.
Yeah, a little before. I know who she is.
I know.
We're going back.
I'm going back, but she was.
Prom child. I have no idea who we're talking about.
She was risque. Young. But they had gospel. Louise Williams Bishop and her husband Jimmy Bishop, they did gospel shows. And in fact, some of the last performances in the Uptown were hip hop. So some of the early hip hop artists will tell me, "Oh yeah, I performed it in the Uptown."
Wow.
And so that's part of the history that we really want to do more research on.
Right.
But it was a place in which artists, promoters, producers could begin to showcase their acts in the venue that started out to be limited because of segregation, but it ended up helping to be part of mainstream because Georgie Woods set up a relationship with American Bandstand's Dick Clark to then make recommendations for some of the crossover artists, as they were called then. And so there was a synergy between the Uptown Theater and the African American cultural endeavors and the mainstream community who wanted to see some of these artists.
Yeah, we can certainly, going through that, understand why the Uptown is such a beloved location in the community and even outside of Philadelphia, just a historic location. Now, tell us about your role, because you have done so much in the community, and now this is yet another challenge for you. You've picked up this effort. How'd you get involved, and what are your goals?
Well, I got involved because I actually did the first Avenue of the Arts North project on North Broad between Susquehanna and Dauphin. And I renovated some townhouses which cultural organizations like the Doll Museum and Jill Scott's Blues Babe Foundation located, as well as the headquarters of the African American United Fund, a cultural organization.
Yes.
And while there, I began to notice that people were talking about the deterioration of the Uptown. And so I looked into it and began to come up with some kind of idea of how to involve people in the entertainment community and in the broader community on how to save the Uptown.
Right.
So it was vacant. It's been vacant since the 1995, and we started our actual fundraising right at the point of the economic collapse,
Oh,
which
that's
was very difficult.
2007,
Yes, and
2008,
so
right, yeah.
we thought we'd be able to raise a couple of $1 million, get it up, get it running, and it was just very challenging because funds were not available for that, and the neighborhood was not as interesting as it is now for different kinds of
Right.
activities.
Right. Well, it's certainly, the first thing that comes to mind are, Philadelphia entertainers and the possibility of them taking interest in seeing the Uptown come back to life. And the second thing is about our up and coming stars who hopefully will be so successful that they will donate $30 million to bring we got Prom Shot, they're shaking their heads, so yes, listen, we just got to get them, to that level, and then there is
That's
our
right.
funding source, right? for a
That's
lot of
right, that's
cultural
right,
things
because
in Philadelphia.
we're renovating the Uptown Theater for the new generation.
Yes.
We're calling it a new era of entertainment. We can't go back to the days of the Uptown in the 50s and 60s, but what we can do is offer a venue for those artists who want to make the jump between the small community-sized venues and the big megaplex.
Right,
So that
right.
it is for us a jumping ground to help to make artists and promoters and producers a way for them to grow their business and their art in a venue that is both medium-sized but also has the historic connections that people want to do.
Yeah, now let me ask you this. I mean, the Uptown Theater being a, designated a historic location, is there any funds available through the state and local government to help bring it? And it's such a critical area as well.
Well, the Uptown Theater is listed on the National Trust for Historic Places, and it is not a Pennsylvania historic site. What we're trying to do is to get the Pennsylvania Historic Museum Commission to recognize that it does have some recognition statewide. For example, one of the Blue-Eyed Soul groups called the Magnificent Men used to listen to radio in Dauphin County, and they would hear
Wow.
Georgie Wood somehow, and they wanted to perform in the Uptown, so they were able to at one point perform at the Uptown. So we
Right.
want to do that documentation so we can get funds. There are funds that we have received from the National Trust to be able to do some of the preservation that is necessary.
Right. And for those who don't know, and I think most people do know, Blue-Eyed Soul are like basically white musicians singing African American music, like the Righteous Brothers.
Right, or having a style that's very very similar, but became part of the R&B
Right.
music industry.
Yeah, because music is a universal language, and everyone is interested in music. Maybe not every form of music.
That's right.
And so it's one of the really successful ways we've seen of people understanding each other from different countries, different cities, different even periods of time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, listen, there is so much more for us to chat about, but I have to right now take a commercial break. So listen, everybody, stay tuned. We'll be back with Linda Richardson, and then we'll be meeting Problem Child. They're sitting in here listening to what was going on when they weren't born yet. All right, and we are back. Listen, we're talking to Linda Richardson. She is president, CEO of the Uptown Theater. And, just how important the Uptown Theater is, and, the efforts to bring it back to life, and what a wonderful, vibrant institution and entity it would be in North Philadelphia, and for our city and region. Before I get back to her, let me just shout out that we have different events going on, and one of them is the 2019 Youth Nonprofit Symposium that my office does, actually our 7th annual. It is tomorrow, January 23rd, 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Registration is at 8 o'clock. It's free at Pierce College, 1420 Pine Street. It's all about, well, how to get some money, right? If you're a nonprofit that serves youth, money is always in demand. And so we bring corporate funders and foundations in to talk to you about how to get their money. Because getting money is not easy, as you know, and so it helps to talk to the organizations, what they fund, what they're looking at doing, and then to meet them and give them a card, say hello, and to stick with it, because like most things, it's rare that you get funded right away, but if you stick with it, a lot of people do get funded, and so it's great. Our keynote speaker is Daniel J. Hilferty, the CEO of Independence Health Group. It is a free event. You should register. Just go to Eventbrite and then just Google Youth Nonprofit Symposium. It'll come right up and you could register. It's free. Seats are limited, so please, if you intend on doing that, register. And I'll talk about it a little more later on in the show. But right now, let's get back to Linda Richardson. We are talking about the legendary, historic Uptown Theater. And we heard so much about it, all the fantastic musicians, all the impact that it's had. And right now I'd like to ask Linda, you have a small fundraising project coming up, just about $30,000, is that right?
That's right. The Uptown Theater opened in 1929, so we're celebrating 90 years. And so we are celebrating on February 16th, 2019, our 90th
that's
anniversary. It is coming up, and we've launched a campaign called 90 by 90 by 90. We want to raise $90 from 90 people in 90 days.
Wow.
And what that will do is we will light the marquee, which is historic, and the marquee has been in place since the 1950s, not the 1920s, but we still want to continue to do the restoration. We also are going to be doing a concert in the October, and we're going to do a soft opening of the Uptown. And what we want to do is have a street festival. We want to have some activities inside the Uptown. So we're raising $30,000 altogether for our anniversary campaign to be able to help open up the theater for a soft opening and to provide the infrastructure that's needed for the opening.
Wow. So how can our listeners get involved? They're like, wow, I've done Uptown Theater, love it, heard great things about it, want to help. How do they help?
Well, first they can, we have a GoFundMe campaign, so you can make a contribution of $90 on our GoFundMe, www.gofundme.com/SavePhiladelphiaUptownTheater.org. Also, you can call us at 215-236-1878 or go online, www.PhiladelphiaUptownTheater.org.
All right. Good stuff. $90, 90 people, 90 days. Easy to remember, and $90 is doable, right?
Yes, yes. And for some folks, we're saying, save $1 a week, and then we'll, if you bring in a week, we'll put you on as a pledge, and we'll see the rest of your $90.
Right,
so we want to
right.
make it easy.
Okay, fantastic. Because it truly is a very inclusive of the community, and folks who just love the Uptown and what it has meant to our city. All right. Well, listen. In terms of the big effort of getting to full restoration and all that, what are the plans for the Uptown? Because it's it's in addition to the theater and all that, it had office buildings and everything on top of it. And that is just an area of Philadelphia that is exciting, but really needs to be, invested in.
That's right. So we have phases. The total project is going to cost $10 million. We've raised the $3.5 million. What we want to do is reopen the Uptown both as a entertainment venue, but also as a technology center. So we want to be able to have technology, broadcast capability. We also are looking in the area where their office space to have shared office space for artists, musicians who want to be able to live and to conduct their art. We're going to have artists in residence who will help some of the up and coming artists with their craft. So we'll have residencies. And our first step is the infrastructure. So we're completing the infrastructure, and we are hoping to open up in October of 2019 as a soft opening for people to see what the possibilities are for the Uptown. But we definitely need investment, we need support, we need encouragement, we need guidance. This work is not easy. It's been a very hard struggle, but we are optimistic that we can save the Uptown and save it for the future generation of artists, promoters, and producers.
Wow, well, that's a fantastic vision. I like it. I love the creative economy and what it does for our city and helps so many people. And of course, the Uptown's a perfect place to do it. So again, how do people find out more and how do they get in touch with you?
Okay, so they can get in touch with us by going on to our website, www.philadelphiauptowntheater.org. They can call us at 215-236-1878, and they can also check us out on our Facebook page. So we have Facebook, we have Twitter, just Google Uptown Theater, Philadelphia Uptown Theater, and you can get us.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us. And
You're
listen,
welcome.
everybody, stay tuned because we'll be back after this commercial break and hear from and meet some of our up and coming performers who may be performing at the newly reopened Uptown Theater.
That's right.
And that is Problem Child. So hang on, we'll be right back. All right, we are back. Listen, we were talking to Linda Richardson, President and CEO of the Uptown Theater, all that they're doing. And now we are going to spend a little time with Problem Child. Yeah, there they are. Listen.
What's good? I'm Prazu. I'm from 6th and Cumberland, North Philly. Stand up.
Okay.
Wagwan, it's the rude boy, Scotty Cash,
Sakwase.
Jamaica.
Let's go. Sakwase is the little Haitian sensation. Little Haiti baby, Hove Lane in the building.
Yeah.
All right. So these three young performers, they are collectively Problem Child.
Yeah.
How'd you guys come up with the name?
Well, honestly, like we all had kind of, hopeless kind of backgrounds, and our mentors really saw that in all of our experiences and our lifestyles, and seeing how, as they got to know us and talk to us about the things we've been through, they was able to see like, y'all all got similar, hurts and pains and struggles, and people doubted y'all and called y'all hopeless as young people, and then y'all grew up and turned into who y'all are today. It's like really embracing your past, and embracing the parts of you that created, the possibility of progress and positivity. So it's embracing the negative to, really shine light on the positive.
Right. So in fact, Problem Child is really a very positive term about somebody who might be a problem child who turns out to be positive, yeah.
Victorious in what they're doing.
Yes,
Because it's no light without darkness. You know what I mean?
True.
So
Very true.
You got to embrace both. It's the whole yin and yang thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So,
Right.
Okay. Now, how did you three meet?
well, me and it's gotta be.
So, well, I knew Pride since I was like, we went to second grade together, I think.
Mhm.
Second grade.
And we was definitely, you know, like the bad apples in the class. So, like, I just knew him because of that. Like, I just remember like him being the one that always was getting in trouble, and I would get in trouble too. So, you know, just growing up, we kind of like we ran back into each other through our mentors. Like, you know, and we were both dealing with our mentors who are a team now, which is Range, the Messenger, and that's Sean Penn. So we were, you know, I was working with Range, he was working with Sean, and like, you know, they Range brought me to the studio one day, and I seen him, and I was like, oh, bro, like, it was just funny because I'm like, yo, bro, I ain't seen you in years.
Mm.
So like from then we just kind of, you know, started working, and you know, Ho was around too, working with our mentors. So we all like, they just put us all together, and we all just started making music, and it was like, it just made sense.
Yeah, we all met through the music, and
Right.
it was just a beautiful thing. Like when you have three people that are super like high level in what they're doing and killing in what they're doing, and us three coming together, it just was like a championship.
Mm.
Right.
So it's interesting because it's not like, from what I'm hearing, you were kind of like hanging out together and discovered you were into music
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
and met each other while you were doing music.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, we all had our own solo careers. So,
Mm.
you know, just coming together, it was just from years of kind of being a part of the music scene.
All right, so let me unpack this a little bit because you each had kind of like your own careers.
Yeah.
And so why don't we go through each one of you and tell us a little bit about like when did you discover you had a thing for music, and how did you get to the point where you ran into the other two? And I'll start with
ladies first.
Hoagland.
So,
Hi. So basically, I always had a passion for music ever since I was young. I played instruments, and then it just developed over time. I'd say like me getting into the scene of, especially like the Philadelphia scene, and really getting into what the musicians and the artists were getting into. I started off as a songwriter when I was like 18. And it really just put my foot into the door of what I needed to be prepared for as an artist. And then I met my mentors maybe 2 or 3 years down the line in that journey and transitioning from songwriter to artist. So me meeting them was a product of me just trying to find who I was as an artist and trying to grow in that aspect. So it's just funny, like, because in my solo career, I had dropped 1 EP, and then, you know, I just was trying to figure it out, because you have to put it out there in order to try and fail and see, like, okay, is this my audience, you know, is this what I'm really doing, is this who I'm gravitating to, like, who speaks to me, and who am I speaking to, and it was a process, but meeting them through that journey, like, just solidified everything that I was doing.
What do you bring to the trio?
I am the Holy Spirit. I'm the Holy Ghost. We move as one entity. So like, you know,
Trinity.
the Holy Trinity. And so I just bring that X factor. I bring that, you know, modern day Fuji, Lauryn Hill. You know,
All right.
little Kim in there too. But you know, that's what I bring to the
Okay.
table.
Fantastic. All right, and Scotty Cash.
yeah, so, you know, I've been, I've really, you know, since I was little, like, I kind of always been on the stage. Like, you know, my mom was like, you know, my folks was heavy in church, so like I did a lot of like performances and stuff like that, just singing or, you know, whatever, like, and so I was always used to like just being on the stage. So like growing up, you know, like I thought I wanted to be, you know, a lawyer or something, you know, like that. I didn't really like have a direct idea what I wanted to be. So just growing up, I kind of was like in limbo. That's how I ended up getting into all this different type of stuff. But like once I in high school, like I was always known for like just freestyling. Like, you know, I just used to rap, and like I never really thought about it. I just would just rap and like just have fun, or I'm do that at the party that's rapping or whatever. So you know, like some of my friends was like telling me like, yo, you should really take it serious. Like, you know, I think I can hear your voice on this and that. So, you know, I always been like super interested in hip hop culture. Like I always watched music videos heavy when I was little. So I kind of like I knew how to look like a rapper. Like, you know what I mean? And so that was like when I started like really taking music serious. I was able to start writing songs that were kind of like it was like a therapeutic thing for me. Like I started writing about things that I was like going through in life that I didn't realize was affecting me a certain way. So that kind of drove me to be like, whoa, like it's, and then like, you know, people reacted to the music in a way like, yo, I feel that same way. So once I realized it was like real connections being made through the music, like it just made me really love it. And you know, I just really started going in. I dropped like a couple projects. I did a lot of performances in Philly. I performed down in Atlanta, down at the A3C Music Festival.
Right.
And like that was like right before, you know, I got back and started working with my mentor. And, you know, we came up with the idea of Problem Child. And, you know, the rest is history. So.
Okay, I'm going to get to Pride Zoo, but I'd like our listeners in the middle of this conversation to hear what you're about. So this is a song that you guys wrote and performed. It's called Legendary. Let's listen to it.
Let's get it.
I can I'm just checking it. It's a short and a quarter. Can you hear it? I get it. Yeah, what he said.
You started singing this. Just started out. I can hear it.
All right, Legendary by Problem Child.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Now, definitely that Caribbean sound comes out because we got someone of Haitian descent, someone of Jamaican descent, and it's definitely coming through your music.
Yep.
Thank you, yes.
Yep.
All right, good. So let's continue our conversation now that our listeners get a little taste of what you guys do and who you are. So, you know, in your journey, Pride Zoo, what were you doing before you met the other two?
So before I met, I met Scotty a long time ago. But before I met Hove and like Problem Child really got together and was doing our thing.
Right.
I was on my solo thing. So initially, I started doing music when I was like 8, right? And it wasn't even like fully doing music. I was just getting in trouble a lot. Like, and my mom and dad broke up. It was, you know, divorcing and everything like that. And my grandma brought me a keyboard. So I started playing keys, and it was just like Scotty. It was like therapeutic for me in a way to really express myself. And then as I developed, I started rapping when I was 12. That was when like a lot of the battle rap stuff was happening. So I was in a little group called NFL. You know, some people know what that stands for. Just put it together.
Yep.
But so I was in a little group when I was a young boy rapping, and then I developed past that. I was playing keys at my dad's church. My dad is an apostle. So I was playing keys. I was singing there. And when I was 16, I went on Apollo, and you know the world famous Apollo.
Oh, sure.
And I won second place there on some amateur night stuff. And then as I kept developing past then, and I had a group in Philly called And the Animals, and we was doing our thing. It was kind of like a hip hop infused rock R&B thing. I'm a super musical boy, so I was heavily influenced by Prince and Kanye. So I'm like, you know, in my bag in that capacity. So then, like last year, well, what was it last year? It was like last year, the year before I graduated from college, right? And I was working with Sean real heavy, and he was pushing me to really focus on music because I got my degree, and I've been writing business plans since I was young. So I was I had all these plans to do all this stuff. He's like, yo, put all your energy into music, you know what I'm saying, and get the result that you're really looking for. So at that point, I did that, and I was on The Voice. So last year, I was on the NBC's The Voice. I did my blind auditions, and I ain't go past that, but I was on NBC's The Voice, and I did my thing there. And then after that, we put together the Problem Child thing, and I've been rocking with the team since then. So.
Now specifically, how did the three of you get together and say we're Problem Child?
Well, the mentors, the OGs, put us together and say, yo, because honestly, like I said, we all been rocking and we all had some type of success doing it. So the OGs like really put us together and saw the vision and said, look, like this gonna be the Warriors. You know what I'm saying? Y'all all dope together. I mean, individuals, but you know, you put all the lights together. You know what I mean? Then you got Times Square. You can see it from space. Yeah,
I agree. And just to add on to that, I feel like what really stamped the group is when we finally all got on the record together. It just sounded magical. So we just knew we had something once we all was on the record together. And we all just knew what we all sounded like meshed together as one.
So you guys do the record, and is it when you hear it in its final production, or it's while you're doing it? When does the magic happen?
I mean, the whole process is magic because it's like, when I look at these guys, I just know like they mega talented. Like I already know, like I could kind of already, like, cause like the process is like we'll write something and we'll either send it to the other two, or you know, like it'll kind of just be whatever ideas we're coming up with, like the other two add on there. So it's like, for me personally, like when I write certain songs, it's like I know what they about to add to it, like, and it's like I just already know, and it's like I know it's gonna be magic. Like it's hard for it not to be. Like I don't think I've ever heard a song like that we made that I didn't like at all. Like, so
That's true.
it's just the whole process of it. It's just dope being in the studio together and just working and showing each other our verses or showing each other our parts of the song.
All right, I'm going to interrupt you again because you're going to do something right now, right here in the studio, live.
Okay.
And another bit that you wrote, it's called Come Back. You're going to do, 45 seconds or a minute of that.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Give me all types right here. Let's get into it. Yeah. I call her Boomerang. Yeah. She always come right back. Yeah. And when I do my thing, she take all of that.
Yeah, she get all of that.
She say, boy, you such a pro. Yeah, you know what you doing. Exotic with my stroke. Mucho caliente moving. And she my senorita, Madam Muzelle, and my mistress. And every time I come through, you don't question, she with it. Cause I'ma make her come back. Yeah. Shorty say, roll it back. Shorty want all of that. This loving make you come back. Oh, no. Yeah, shorty want all of that. Shorty want all of that. Love and make you.
When we met, I knew that I wanted you.
Yeah.
Know me well, you ring me just like a bird.
Oh, yeah.
Making up, we smoking on the backwood.
Yeah.
You're the one
They got me feeling
so good.
Make you come back. Yeah, shorty said run it back. Shorty want all of that. This love and make you come back. Oh no. Shorty want all of that. Shorty want all of that. This love and make you come back.
All right, fantastic.
Hey.
Shout out to the soundboard.
All right, listen, in our last 45 seconds, I want you to tell the listeners how to get in touch with you, how to follow you, where you're performing, get your music, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So follow us on Instagram at Problem Child, PRLM CHLD. It's the same on Twitter too, right?
Yep.
And on Facebook. So follow us PRLM CHLD. We got a sickle mode cover that we did, like a little remix thing on YouTube. That's also PRLM CHLD.
Yep.
No vowels, everything the same. So check that out. We doing our car raps. We about to drop one tonight. Well, today. Matter of fact, in like another hour. So look for that. We got a lot of stuff coming up. We also did a undecided challenge. So go check that out on our page too, on all our pages. And I mean, if y'all want to send us anything as far as emails go, it's the same thing. Problem Child, PRLMCHLD at Gmail.
All right, thank you very much. And listen, tune in next week for In the Know with Dave.
Yeah.
All right.